Now,
Sorry.
y'all are live.
Oh, sorry. Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining in and tuning in with us during this time. You could be doing anything throughout your day, but you have decided to tune in with us. Even if you're going to go back and watch it, that's completely fine. Thank you for watching this with us. Today's topic is going to be the impact of social media and teenagers during this pandemic. We have, as adults, have been impacted with social media. One thing that I can think of is some adults may not have a social media account, or may have gotten a social media account, or may not be too tech savvy with social media. But during this pandemic, with us trying to social distance and trying to be in touch with the outside world, we may have had to get a social media account, or tune into some form of social media, whether it's Zoom or Google Meets or anything like that. So we are going to touch bases on how to connect with teenagers during this time when it comes to social media and them using their accounts.
And we can start with Facebook, since we're on Facebook Live right now.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook is very popular within the youth and teen community. They all love pictures, they love videos, they love keeping in contact with people, and it's very easy to maneuver through. So Facebook has a major impact because they're not only connecting with one another, but they're connecting with people around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you can reach your youth through a multitude of ways, such as I know some of y'all might not be familiar with it. Some of y'all might be familiar with TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So getting on TikTok and doing some of those themed videos and having fun, and then bringing them over to social media on Facebook and sharing them with your teens and
Mm-hmm.
showing them your sense of humor and making them laugh and making them smile. Because one thing about the timeline, it showcases so much.
It does.
So, they're scrolling and they're coming across things that, are not just positive, but things that kind of weigh on them. It triggers their emotional state. And so with them already being, for the most part, behind the scenes, not being in tune in person with their peers, this is their go-to. For some of them, and even us adults, the first thing we do when we wake up in the morning is go on Facebook.
Yes.
So why not use yours to be, or have a chance at being that first bright thing that they see on their timeline to start their day?
Yeah, and we all know that teenagers can maybe or possibly get a little bit inappropriate with their social media. They're teenagers. We were teenagers once too. So
we didn't have social media.
We didn't have social media. However, you can still get creative with your teenagers.
Yeah.
So they may not know about some of the things that you are interested in. And this is something you can do with your kids as well. But they may not know about some things that you may be interested in. So if you have picked up a new hobby, or it's something on social media, there are so many groups now on Facebook. I know I have really picked up gardening. So I have found so many gardening groups on Facebook, and just different plants and stuff I didn't even know were out there or that existed. And so you can get creative in whatever your hobby may be. You can kind of branch out to your teen or your kid and see what it is that they may be interested in as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be some type of interaction all the time. Sometimes it's just getting creative and branching out and learning new ideas from other people.
Now, I totally agree with that. And I love that you shared how you're getting into gardening and you're into all these groups that you didn't even know about before.
Didn't.
Because most of the time when we think of the internet or social media, we think of what we're used to, connecting with people that we already know.
Yeah.
So we don't think about the creative side of it. And Daryl asked, what is the best way to begin a conversation with a teen using social media appropriately? And that's a very great question. I'm glad he asked that because, again, they're taking in so much. And a lot of times, just being honest, us adults, we're the screeners So we get on there to screen their
That's a
pages to
good
see
point.
what they're doing, what
Yeah.
they're posting, and things
Yeah.
like that. So this is a great opportunity to redirect them. And so starting that conversation of, what do you like to do? Me personally, I'm not a gamer, but I'm learning because that's a great connection to Talking Piece to connect with our teens. I talked to a young lady last week, 12 years old, who loves Dragon Ball Z.
That's
And
interesting.
I listened to her talk about Dragon Ball Z for 30 minutes, and believe it or not, now I'm interested in Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
And, you'd be surprised at the things that you can learn from them. And that geared over to her sharing with me how she loves to draw, showing me some of her pictures and her paintings and things like that. And so it fell into the love of her art, or for her love of art and, what she wants to do when she grows up. So she opened up from something that she liked to something that she's passionate about, interested in. Now we're talking about her goals. So that was a great way to kind of enter that avenue. And so to answer Daryl's question directly, another way is to ask them how they're doing. Again, a lot of times we're focused on what they're doing. We're not focusing on how they're doing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times too, we automatically, as adults and as parents ourselves, we automatically start thinking about just limitations, screen limitations. How can we block this? We don't even know what we're trying to block. We just know that we're just trying to protect them and block them. And sometimes, and we know what's inappropriate and what's not appropriate, but depending on the age, sometimes they may need to be exposed to a few things. And what is it that you like about this? Why do we feel like it's inappropriate? And just piggyback off of what Akisi was saying, and kind of pinpoint on Daryl's question. Again, that's when you can become creative, and if you already have rapport with this teenager, you can definitely say, okay, well, since you do like Dragon Ball Z, what's something specific about Dragon Ball Z that you like? Because again, I don't know anything about Dragon Ball Z, but what's your favorite episode? What's your favorite instrument or weapon that they use? And you can kind of go off of there, so that way, again, their rapport is still being built, and you're still having a positive interaction with the teenager.
Oh yes, and once again, I can't stress how much you showing interest to them, it kind of lights up this fire to where they think you're cool, they trust you, they trust your judgment. So when you're giving feedback, they're open to receive it.
We got a good question. What are the reasons, and this is from Lauren, what are the reasonable boundaries for teens regarding the amount of time they can be on their screen? That's a really good question. And I think that with that, there's no scientific question. I just think that you need to kind of think logically with it. If we're adults and we're on our screen for 8 hours a day, what are some of the things that can happen? We have a headache. We can become discombobulated with our thoughts. And so when it comes to a teenager, I just feel like, even if they're on, because you have to think school is going to open back up, or possibly, or it could be that it may be Zoom, or they may be doing online classes. We don't know yet, but just based off of what has happened in the past, in the spring or whatever, when all of this happened, and they were kind of doing the online classes, you had teenagers that were on their computer for 8 hours a day, and then they were getting on social media, and then they were listening to music at the same time. And so, I think without the social interaction that's happening, they're not having a chance to be with their friends and things of that nature. Now we do have a little time to figure out how we can put on some type of limitations for, when it comes to those things. And so I think that we just need to be logical when it comes to that. Again, there is no scientific answer. However, if they're on their computer all day doing classes, let's go outside and try to do something. Let's have a picnic. Let's get creative in that sense, so that way everybody can have a break from their screen. And let's say, hey, let's put the phone down for just a second. Sometimes it's okay to enjoy the moment.
Yes.
And I think that with teenagers and even us with adults, and I keep saying that because a lot of teenagers have to understand that adults are human too.
Oh,
And so, we're struggling too. We're having a hard time with this pandemic as well. And so I think that one thing you can suggest is just enjoying the moment and taking those breaks. Not saying you can't be on social media, you can't do those things, but I think that being on some type of phone or computer all day long is a little too much for anybody at any age.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you pointed out doing other things like going outside, because one of the things that is very popular are challenges.
Yes.
So if you could do a enjoy the moment challenge, I noticed that you mentioned that twice, enjoying the moment. Enjoying the moment challenge. What does that look like for you? What does that look like for your friends? How can you share these things?
Yeah.
For the younger kids, when we were growing up, one thing that was popular was the pen pal letter.
Yeah.
So, pen pal letter challenge.
Yeah.
Enjoy the moment in writing a letter, the anticipation of getting something in the mail. Our kids don't really get things in the mail.
Yeah.
So you would be surprised at how that will allow them to learn from one another. What are some of your challenges, or what are some of the things you've learned, or what are some of the things that you've gained during the pandemic? Since
Yeah.
we've been out of school, what have you been doing since I last saw you? Because those are things that they don't really ask. Because again, when you're on social media, you're just used to liking the pictures and commenting on videos.
A quick comment. Yeah.
Yes. So let's spark their minds a little bit and get them not necessarily away from the computer or away from the phone long term, but getting them exposed to other things. Because again, while social media is great, it also has a great impact on their minds.
It does.
And on their bodies as well.
Yeah.
For my son personally, he's 13. He doesn't have social media, but he plays the game online with friends.
Yeah.
So that's another thing.
That's
when you
another
get used to
form
that,
of
you don't want to
social
do
media.
anything else.
Yeah.
But hurry up and eat. Hurry up and do whatever else you're doing to get back to
Yeah.
doing what you were doing online.
Yeah.
So with them having to maneuver from, all of this free time and going back to school next month, a great way for us to use the social media impact would be to also throw in some challenges related to learning
Absolutely.
online.
Absolutely.
Because although they were required to do this in March, they weren't ready for that.
Mm-mm.
So we can use this opportunity now to prepare them step by step
Yeah.
so that they can go on into the school year refreshed, revived, and excited.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Do we have any more questions?
So I have a question back here behind y'all. So
Okay.
how would you broach with a teen if you find something inappropriate on their social media, something that could potentially be damaging to them in the future or put them at risk?
Well,
How would you broach that?
I will say, I hate to kind of be devil's advocate, but I try to be open-minded. You have to be mindful of the age.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about that. Because once again, we were all teenagers. No, we did not have social media.
Mm-hmm.
However, we at one point probably did something that was not okay with our parents.
Oh, yes.
And so I think that, I guess my advice would be to have a talk with that teenager,
Mhm.
because you don't want to hover and just say these are things that you don't need to do, or because they may be exposed to these things. We don't know who they're around all the time. We can't be everywhere. So I think that that's something that they need to know how to react, or maybe what to do if maybe they feel like they're peer pressured. I mean, some of those things we don't know unless we ask, or we don't know unless we communicate or talk to them. It may be something deep down going on that we may need to possibly understand. It's a lot of things that we could get just from having a conversation with that teenager. Before we just say, okay, block,
Yeah.
or okay, don't do that, that's inappropriate. I know a lot of the teenagers that I have, in the cases that I have, they may not have a good relationship with their parents, or they may feel like they already have a parent, and so you don't want to come off as you being another parent, because that may cause a teenager just to completely shut down, and that's not what we want. We want them to be able to communicate and talk and build rapport and socialize. So,
And to add to that, we're looking at things from an adult's perspective.
right.
So we have to be mindful that, again, they're learning, they don't know it all, we don't even know it all. But one thing that Jackson's one of our advocate supervisors, we were talking about last week, is he mentioned that when he was in school, they had something similar to like a 24-hour no talk about it policy / rule, which meant, for instance, if teenagers went out and maybe were goofing off or drag racing and they had an accident, for 24 hours, the parent could not address it. And what this did, oh yeah, and so it got me to thinking, what this does is it allows us to focus on them. Because 9 times out of 10, when they do something inappropriate, they feel bad about it. When they realize it's something they shouldn't have done, it's eating them up inside. And so us aggressively getting on to them, or, just yelling at them, or, because that happens too, to be honest, punishing them, that doesn't really reach them the way it needs to. So when you support them and say, hey, I'm here for you, how are you feeling, are you okay? What are your thoughts about this? And then the next day, talking about it and saying, first off, I'm glad you're okay, everybody's sorry from the accident, but the importance of driving safely is so that you don't hurt yourself or anyone else. These are the dangers that could happen when you drag race, or these are the dangers that can happen when you drink and drive. Showing pictures of other accidents, and maybe even videos, again, social media, the impact, videos of others who have shared their lessons. And this sends a deeper message, and it makes them appreciate, first of all, your support and love for them the previous night when this happened, your concern and love for them in talking about it the next day, and you're pointing out to them why they should, continue to not engage in those type of activities.
Absolutely, I love that.
It's okay for us to be their friends.
Yes.
It's okay for us, and if anything, it's very beneficial for us to be their friends. Because they learn how to be good friends, how to be healthy friends, and how to go out and be those change agents for one another, to set those boundaries. I always say, we know a lot, but they know everything. When it comes to what they're dealing with, what they're going through, what's going on, in their age groups. So who better to model for one another than them?
Yeah, I love that. And also the 24-hour rule gives you yourself time to just kind of decompress and think about how you are going to react and how you are going to respond. Because a lot of times when we're under a lot of stress, especially during a pandemic, we're getting stretched and pulled in every direction. And when you're under a lot of stress, you become impulsive and you tend to think irrationally. And so I think that, waiting and thinking about your actions, it also shows them not only that you know, you already know, and so since you've waited to do this, it can show that you're organic and you can be transparent with them without you having to point the finger at them all the time. Because then it leads to them reaching out to other people, and it leads to them reaching out to their peers. And peers don't always have the best advice. They just don't. And so, I love that. I love that.
And so, another question we had before we started that came in was, for parents that are just now allowing their younger teens to branch out into social media so they can maintain some contacts with friends, what sort of privacy settings and things should they put in place to ensure they're being safe?
I would say, number one, take them slow. Don't let them get on all 4 or 5 social medias at one time.
Absolutely.
Go over those boundaries beforehand. Set some rules and limitations. Making it mandatory, and you don't have to say it's mandatory, but making sure that you're one of their friends, you're one of their followers, and that you're able to see what they're posting.
I love it.
you know, and letting them know, you know, it's not to just, that I don't trust you, it's for your safety.
Yes.
And sharing with them things that have happened and that have occurred from social media, because we don't always know that the other person on the other side of the screen is who they say they are.
Absolutely.
So making sure that you know who you're following and who's following you. They're fine with that friend. Hey, Samantha, I saw you added me on Instagram. I just wanted to verify that that was really your page. And just making sure that they're going through every precaution to make sure that they're protecting themselves.
I like that. That was, and I don't even have to say anything else because you pretty much said it all, but basically just being open and honest with them and gaining their trust, as you will want, you know, them to be able to have your trust as well. I think that as parents and as adults, we tend to automatically start downloading apps that we can spy on them with. And so when we do that, we tend to cause them to kind of, you know, either back off or they get more sneakier and sneakier and sneakier. And so I think in order for you to enjoy your peace and have your own peace of mind, it's better to be open and honest with them, and so that way they can trust you with that. So I like those expectations that you listed.
You know, in that way, if something happens that they're not familiar with or they're not comfortable with, the first person they're going to come to is you.
Absolutely.
Because you've already opened that door.
Yeah.
If I trust you, and I want you to enjoy this, but I also want to make sure that you're safe in doing this.
Absolutely.
And then, again, coming up with those boundaries as far as how much time are you going to be allowed to be on social media. Setting that on the forefront and going in with the expectation of, okay, this is a luxury and it's not a necessity.
Yes, and,
Setting that up
and it can be a distraction.
Yes.
And so I think that, you know, just like when school starts, this needs to be done first, setting those expectations. You can have this amount of time on social media. Let's kind of see how it goes. Let's kind of get the ball rolling with that. And then as we move on, you can progress, because with things being a luxury, you can earn time. And so that's when that creativeness comes in. You know, if you know, a lot of teenagers probably won't be working, you know, when school starts, or probably not this summer. And so, and I hate to sound childish with that, but I do have a toddler. So those are things that you can set up, whether it's a piggy bank, some type of piggy bank for them, you know, where you can say, okay, this time can be earned based off of what has been done. You've earned this amount of points, or you've earned this amount of money. And so what do you want to buy with your points or with your money? More screen time, you know, more outside time, more, you know, phone calls with your friends. I think that's where that creativity can come in at when you're dealing with teens, because it still makes it fun. It makes it enjoyable. They can learn to count money, you know, when it comes to if you're using money or points or anything like that. And it also teaches them, you know, I've accomplished something. I've earned something. I am proud of myself for doing this. Instead of just kind of handing it to them, because I think that's when teenagers tend to get bored. And, you know, as teenagers, they always have to be doing something exciting. And so I think, you know,
and because I'm a visual person, while you were talking, thank you for that, because I'm sitting here picturing all of the amazing things I can implement and kind of, you know, like I said, going back to what our kids like. You have the gamers, and I'm kind of biased to that because that's my son. So I'm thinking of the different levels that he achieves with the NBA game he plays. We can say, hey, we can name this, that tier or that challenge, and you know, just like you succeed on the game, you can succeed over here.
Absolutely.
And gain more privileges.
Absolutely, because it's still
like
a form of recognition. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
you do get recognition at work. You know, it's not instant gratification as you would a toddler, but it is some type of recognition. Everybody wants to feel like what they're doing is a success. Everybody.
Yes.
And so I think when you're dealing with teenagers, they're kind of in between that instant gratification and their recognition. You know, it's meeting them where they are. And you have to know, once you build their rapport, the teenager that you are dealing with, whether it's your child or whether, you're an advocate, who is it that you're dealing with? What is something that can motivate them and encourage them, and something that you can be creative with them with? I mean, because if you're dealing with a 16 or 17-year-old, at some point they're going to want a job. So that's another way that you can be creative with them. This is how you're going to deal with this on your job. If you're at a cash register, you have to be able to count these numbers. So,
Well, I have a suggestion. I think it would be really cool for us to do a CASA challenge. So for all the advocates, visitors, mentors out there, why don't we do a CASA challenge where we reach out to at least one or two of the youth that we advocate for, do a challenge with them, and post our results. Not necessarily posting their faces or their names or any information about them, but just posting what you gained, what you as an adult
oh,
have
that's a great
learned
idea.
through the impact of social media with youth during the impact.
Great
during the
idea.
pandemic. Yeah,
Great
so
idea.
to just keep this going and keep all of us motivated. 'Cause like she stated, it's challenging for us adults as well. So let's continue to stay motivated and focus on advocating for our youth and being great examples for them.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for tuning in.
Thank
and thank you all for the
you.
replay. That will be watching the replay.